Welcome back to Boulder Pass Fire Department's Training Minutes. My name is Captain Caffrey. Today we're going to be going over rural water supply with the new edition of Tanker 21. We'll be going over how to place a porta-tank, as well as how to draft out of a porta-tank on scenes, and finally what to do with the tanker once they have dumped their entire load. Let's get started. Alright, now we're going to talk about placing down the dump tank to be able to supply water to any fire engine in a rural area. Now the dump tank is literally a portable water source that the tanker can back up to and release its contents into the dump tank. The dump tank is found on the rear of Tanker 21 on this little right compartment. You'll click it and you'll be able to get the dump tank tool. It'll be labeled as pool. When you're placing the pool, you will see an arrow. The arrow indicates the side that the drafting engine will be on. Therefore, when you are placing the dump tank, if you're placing it next to a drafting engine, ensure the arrow is pointing towards the engine itself. When placing the dump tank, ensure that your character is in the middle of the dump tank to be able to get a proper location on it, as well as for it to actually place. When it's placed down, you'll see that the strainer is in the middle of it, and you will also see that on the pump panel, you're going to pull the dump valve, which will dump the contents of the tanker into the portable tank. The water level will rise to simulate how much water is actually in the tank. When the water level stops rising and is near the top, that means that the tank is full. Now that our porta tank is full, or Tanker 21 is out of water, they would then leave the scene to go refill at a hydrant or other source of water. Now we're going to talk about drafting. We're joined by Captain Moretti from Station 21. This is actually his go-to expertise area. However, I will be talking about it instead. So, when the drafting engine requires water from the tank, they're going to take their hard suction, which is located at the same outlet as the supply line that we talked about in the last video. They're going to take the hard suction and going to attach it to the strainer that is going to be placed in the porta tank. Once the hard suction is attached to the strainer, the driver operator will come back to the pump panel and it'll operate the same way as our supply line operate. They will pull the number 1 intake white lever, which should say hard suction on it, and that will initiate suction out of the porta tank, and you'll start to see the tank value start to rise and the porta tank water should start to deplete. Now, at this time we would also have other tankers coming in to refill the porta tank while the drafting engine is filling off of the tank to always have a continuous source of rural water supply. As you can see that the water level is now going down in the tank to replace the water that was lost on engine 21. That's going to do it all for tanker ops. The one thing we didn't touch on is how to refill Tanker 21. However, if you remember in our last video based on water supply, it is the same concept. However, the tanker is going to have to go further out to find a source of water from a hydrant. I hope you enjoyed watching rural water supply, and remember, the dump tank is located in the rear to the right of Tanker 21. It can be placed anywhere and the tanker can fill up anywhere. However, the drafting engine should be placed on the arrow side of the dump tank in order to successfully draft out of the dump tank. If you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to Training Captain Caffrey or Captain 21 Moretti. That's it for Boulder Pass Fire Department's Training Minutes. We'll see you next time.